this so that we can, and it's a perfect Zoom meeting because there's dogs barking. It's just, you have to. But so welcome everyone to this Zoom update on Cuba. Welcome everyone to the Zoom update on Cuba. Sorry about that. And I'd like to invite now Paula to have invite each of the churches and the people represented to introduce themselves. Paula.
Well, I just wrote in the chat, please write your name and where your church, where it is, and the name of the church where you have a partner church in Cuba in the chat, so you all can see who's here. Okay. I'm going to mute Stan and Ken for a couple of minutes here. So I noticed we've got a contingent from First Baptist Greenville. So Ann Garner, would you introduce everybody who's here from First Baptist Greenville, and the others can wave their hands and introduce yourself and maybe say, you know, where your partner church is and how long you've had your partnership?
Sure. Hello, everyone. I'm Ann Garner, First Baptist Greenville. I see Kathy Sharp and Ann Quattlebaum. And I think that might be it from First Baptist. We are partnered with La Iglesia Bautista del Camino in Guanajay with Javier Perez. And we have been partners with them since 2006. Kathy, is that right? I think 2006.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you, Ann. We have Oakhurst Baptist Church in the house. Donna, would you help us identify the others from Oakhurst who are present and tell us a little bit about your partnership? I mean, we can't hear you yet.
Carol Burgess and oops, losing the Dalen and David, Neva, we'll take you, Claudia Dickerson,
Okay, okay.
Lynn Farmer, and Carol Adams and her husband.
Bill,
yes, thank you. Let me see.
Oh, I see Laura
Bell.
too. Did you call her? Laura's out.
Huh?
I see Laura.
Laura?
Oh, Laura is Greenville. She didn't get the introduction for Greenville a moment ago. She was a little late, missed it. Sorry.
Okay.
Let's see.
Stopped at Gail Bell. And then there's also Judy Rodes and Lisette Rodes.
Okay.
I think that's all. That's probably
Terrific.
enough.
All right. So Oakhurst is well represented. Let's see. Baptist Church of the Covenant's here tonight.
I forgot to
who
say,
will introduce?
I forgot to say our sister church is the Batania Baptist Church in Perico. And I do not know how long they've been a sister church, because they started out being a sister church to Iglesia Kairos.
2005 was my first trip, and that was our first year with them.
Well, we were sister church, and then Oakhurst took
Right.
over after we blended in with their congregation. So it's been a while.
Right.
Okay. So let me call on Baptist Church of the Covenant next. Kathy, would you be willing to introduce the group here from Baptist Church of the Covenant?
Okay. Well, myself and Cindy Ponder, and I don't know if there's anybody else on here. And
yeah, I just came in. Linda Groom.
Linda, yeah, okay. Linda Grooms is on, and our church is Salome Baptist Church in Boca de Mario. And
Terrific.
we've had a long partnership with them. I'm not sure when it started. Linda, do you know?
2005.
Okay.
Okay. All right, thanks. Park Road, Tom Pulaski, would you speak for the Park Road folks who are here? Or attempt to?
Yeah, oh, sure. Okay. I think I'm unmuted now. I
Yes.
think we have two other Park Roaders here with me. I just found out about this meeting a couple of days ago, so I'll just jump in. Linda Hefner, who I think has been to Cuba as many times as anybody has from Park Road, and Peggy McIntyre, who is, I think, on another page, who is currently the leader of the band at Park Road as far as Cuba is concerned. So we have been a partner with Resurrection Baptist Church in Carlos Rojas since forever. It's been since the early 2000s, I think. I think the first trip was made probably 2004, maybe 2000, yeah, 2004. Or okay, Linda's telling me 4. I don't know if that means that I need 4 of something or whether it's 2004, but I'll take that as 2004.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Tom. I see Jerry Dotson is here from Ecclesia. Jerry, would you say hello? Are there others here from Ecclesia?
Yeah, Stan and Kim.
No, this is true. This is Stan's brother, Jerry.
I'm Stan's just barely older brother than Stan, yeah. And we've
Okay.
been at Sister Church in La Valita, Pastor Sheila Reyes, and we've been a partner with them for about 10 years, I think.
Okay.
And hi,
Glad you're with us tonight, Jerry.
Yeah, this is Jay Larimore, also with Ecclesia.
Okay. Let's see. We have Providence Baptist Church from Hendersonville, North Carolina here. Joyce Fay, would you introduce yourself and any others who are here tonight from your church? We can't hear you yet.
I always begin talking before I remember to unmute. I'm Joyce Fay Myers. This gray head behind me is my husband, Charles. We have with us Philip and Glenda Allen. Philip is the chair of our coordinating council. Herb Sirk, who has been involved with the Cuba ministry for more years than I know about, and James and Ruth Garrison. They are the members of our missions team at Providence Baptist Church in Hendersonville. And our sister church is the Gethsemane Church. And I suppose Herb would have to be the one to tell you how long that's been, because it was before I came to Providence.
Yeah.
Herb, can you help us? I think he hung up.
2011.
The church.
Yeah, there he is.
2011. And the church is in Colorado. I have been there with Herb.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Hey.
I missed that.
Okay, we have Circle of Mercy in the house. Would Mark, would you introduce the folks from Circle of Mercy and tell us a little bit about your commitment to Cuba?
I'm trying to see if there's someone who can probably give a better report, but I don't see anybody else. Dad, you can jump in here. I think it's just my dad, Mahan, and Karen and I, and you know, there's not a lot of specific stuff to report coming out of Circle of Mercy. There's a lot of, I guess, support going on that's just not tied to congregations. But yeah.
A lot of support, I'd say, not just a little, a lot.
Yeah, that's right. Ken, of course, Ken and Nancy and many others are doing a lot of connecting and supporting and all that good stuff. So.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Let's see, Poland's in the house. Vicki Lee, would you speak for your group?
Hello, everybody. It's great to be here. From Poland, we have Nancy Bradley and Judy Mays. Even though she has moved away from Raleigh, Poland still claims her. She's here.
Yeah.
Our partner church is First Baptist Matanzas, and I'm thinking over 31 years partnership.
Okay. All right, we have Craig Henry here with Northminster in Monroe, Louisiana. Craig, do you have any others or are you the solo?
I think I may be it. I don't see anyone else. Yeah, I'm with Northminster Church in Monroe, Louisiana. We have been partnered with Iglesia Bautista en Manuel in Ciego de Ávila since 1994. So year before last, we celebrated our 25th anniversary with them in a big celebration in Ciego de Ávila. Eduardo Gonzalez is the pastor. Noel Fernandez is pastor emeritus, and they just called a new associate pastor, Luis Mendez. So we're really excited that they, for the first time, have an associate pastor to help out. But of course, they're shut down, as is everyone, I suppose, on the island with COVID. So they're not able to do much these days.
All right. Thanks, Craig. I see one of my neighbors on is John Grader. He's a member at the Episcopal Church of the Holy Spirit in Mars Hill. Is there anyone else here from Holy Spirit, John?
Well, not that I know of the last I scanned everybody, but
okay.
I'll tell you that David McNair and I and others from Holy Spirit and All Souls enjoyed a trip to Cuba, I don't know, about 4 years ago. Couldn't pick the year. And Stan and Kim were kind enough to spend some time with us while we were there, I think, up at the seminary. So appreciate Stan and Kim giving us an update and look forward to it.
All right. Thanks, John. All right. So I see a Richmond, Virginia friend. Linda, would you like to say hello to the group?
Yes, I would. Our church, formerly Northminster Church, which is no longer constituted as a church, was associated with Ebenezer Church in Marianao. Raul Suarez was the pastor. We did several visits to Cuba and hosted members of the church at our church. Our church has been deconstituted for probably 6 or 7 years now. So we have not had the pleasure and joy of continuing our friendship. So we've not had that continuing contact. So still hold them close in prayers and memories though. But mainly keep up our contact through Stan and Kim.
Okay, well, we're glad to have you tonight. And that's Linda Weaver Williams. I see we have some Calvary DC folks with us. Carol and Rick, would you like to say hello to the group?
I wrote it in the chat. We don't have a Cuba partner, but because we're in DC and do advocacy, we've represented the Alliance at meetings with congressional offices and the State Department over the years on various Cuba issues. And we're excited to do that. We just met with the Cuba Working Group this last week, so we can give an update on that if you want later in the program.
Okay. Thanks, Carol. And Stan Hasty, he's joined us tonight, and I think I've saved you for last. I don't know. I may have missed someone. Would you greet the group?
Paula, thank you. It's good to see you all. This is an impressive grouping. And it's wonderful to listen in and to review these several partnerships in my own mind, thinking back to the beginnings of some of them. And it's just terrific to see. I look forward to everything that Kim and Stan have to tell us tonight. My admiration for them, by the way, is off the charts. So happy for what they have done and continue to do, and hope that soon they can be back where they want to be.
Indeed. So have I missed anyone? Has everyone's church been introduced, or if there's someone that hasn't been represented, please speak up. Okay, Jason, you're next, I think.
I will then introduce Stan and Kim, and then after that, Paula, if you could give our invocation.
Okay.
So I'll introduce Stan and Kim. I'm going to paste, I believe, the documents back into the chat, just in case folks who got these are documents that they'll be referring to later on. And so I'll introduce Stan Dotson, Kim Christman. It's our pleasure to have them lead us tonight in this introduction on Cuba. Stan Dotson and Kim Christman began working and living full-time in Cuba in 2015, I believe, 6 years ago, after working in churches, higher ed, and public schools. And Stan is associate pastor of the First Baptist Church of Matanzas, Cuba. And Kim is a volunteer in creative ministries with First Baptist of Matanzas. And they both lead Bible studies and workshops on spirituality, resilience, and creative arts for the Fraternity of Baptist Churches of Cuba, which you might hear that acronym is FBAC, which many of you know very well and have a history with FBAC. And also work with the Cuban Council of Churches chaplaincy program. And they help foster relationships between churches of the FBAC and the Alliance. And there are link between churches in many ways between the Alliance churches, partner congregations here, and churches with FBAC. They're also members of a musical group called Con Fe Mezclao that fuses the music of Silvio Rodriguez with that of the Beatles. And so we're so honored tonight to have Kim and Stan lead us in this time. Paula, will you lead us in our invocation now?
Yes, I invite you to join me as I offer a prayer that's adapted from Howard Thurman's Meditations of the Heart. Let us pray. Open up to us light for our darkness. Open up to us courage for our fear. Open up to us hope for our despair. Open unto us peace for our turmoil. Open up to us joy for our sorrow. Open up to us strength for our weakness. Open unto us wisdom for our confusion. Open unto us forgiveness for our sins. Open unto us tenderness for our toughness. Open unto us love for our hate. Open unto us thyself for ourselves. Lord, Lord, open unto us. Amen.
And Stan and Kim, if you would unmute yourselves.
Okay, are we unmuted now?
We thought you had muted us.
Yeah, okay.
We're unmuted now.
Well, I am just full in my heart from just hearing these names and seeing all these faces. And I just think that I need to begin by saying that we would not be doing what we're doing without all of you. All of you are part of this quilt of Cuba and friendship and transformation. And I also want to mention Roger and Mary Ruth Crook, because I think they were the seed that has blossomed into this beautiful tree so many years ago. And there was a time when I wanted to go back to Cuba back in the 90s, and there were several years when I couldn't go. And I saw her at an early alliance meeting, and she said, "Don't you worry, Kim, you're going to go. God's going to make a way. Just don't worry, and it's going to happen. Don't worry." And so I began to trust her. And as you know, Mary Ruth, you can't not trust her because she was just inspired that. So I just want to lift them up as I lift all of you up with gratitude. And I thank you for your continued prayers for all of your partners, because they are so vital these days. I'm going to start with just a sort of a overview of the present context of Cuba. And some of this may not be new information for all of you, but just to sort of give you a summary of what's kind of what we've seen over our last time there. Starting January 1st, there was a major economic change in their system where the Cuban government raised salaries fourfold, and also the prices of pretty much everything was raised fourfold. So people's buying power should pretty much have stayed the same. However, that's a big problem for all the churches, not just fee-backed churches, but all the churches, because they do not receive state salaries, government salaries. So their salaries are not being raised because the churches they don't have a lot of financial resources. And so the pastors are trying to tend to their families, their communities, their churches. And so many churches have outreach ministries beyond their four walls that they're not able to do what they once did. And they have so many sustainable grants and projects that they're working on, and it's just a really hard time because the prices for everything are going up. There was one example that we got when they get their food ration book and they go and get their beans and rice and sugar and different kind of basic things, oil. The bottle of oil used to be like a bottle of oil you buy, I guess it's a quart, I'm not sure, but now it's like a tiny little plastic water bottle. I mean, it's one of the small ones. And it used to be that the black beans would last for about 2 weeks of the month when they would get it. But now, the last time we asked one of our friends, they said, well, the beans lasted about 3 days. So the scarcities of food is another issue that's going on. And so we're just kind of carrying a lot of concern for them. And compact that with the past administration's tightening of the chokehold by limiting money into the country. I don't know if some of you have used Western Union to wire money down in the past. Many Cuban families sent remittances down through Western Union, but that was closed the end of November, early December. And as the previous administration tightened any kind of trade or banking, there used to be several banks that would do business with Cuba, but there's only one bank now that does. In Canada, what did I say? Sorry. But anyway, so the changes in the economy, the past administration's tightening of the chokehold and enforcing parts of the embargo that many administrations did not enforce, the impact on Cuban pastors from feedback whose salaries don't match the raising prices, COVID. COVID was managed very well until December, and then they wanted to open a little bit to have more tourists come in to help with the economy. And so there have been so many more cases now that they're closing inter-province travel. There were about 200 cases in Havana one day this past week, several days ago. When we left, there were, I think, less than 100 deaths back in December for the whole country for the whole time. And now there are deaths every day. So this, Cuba is finally experiencing what the majority of the world has experienced for a long time. And it's very frightening for everyone. There have also been some recent protests in Havana that have caused a lot of disquiet in the country. There have been protests related to freedom of expression. There was a rap artist who was arrested, and the protests came and then they kind of quieted down and they've kind of resurfaced lately. So it's sort of like a pressure cooker. When we were with the feedback the last time before we left the leadership team, they resonated with that image that it's like a pressure cooker and there's so many things out of control and uncertain that they really need our prayers and especially for the churches. The 4 leading provinces in COVID cases are in Havana, Santiago, Granma, which are both in the east, and Matanzas. So just do your best to keep them in prayers, and however you can be reminded. Stan is going to give you some ideas in a little bit. But there is also in the midst of all that a tentative hope and relief. And that Joe Biden was elected president with the hopes that he can return to some of the Obama's administration opening, perhaps to reestablish diplomatic relations, to get Cuba off the State Department's list of state sponsors of terror, and maybe to end the embargo. And with that, I'd like to give you a verse from Ephesians that now to the one who is able to do immeasurably more than all we ask or imagine, to God be the glory. And so why can't we imagine giving glory to God by imagining the end of the embargo? So just, think about that. Think about whatever verse will give you some encouragement to work for what we can imagine. A lot of people have asked us when we might be able to return. We don't really know because we have to start from scratch with our visa. And we also need to wait for COVID to quiet down, because if we were to go right now, we'd have to be in quarantine for 15 days and we wouldn't be able to travel outside of Havana. So it's not really a good time to plan a specific date. But I would encourage all of you, as I'm encouraging myself and Stan, that we're going to go ahead and plan our trip. And we're gonna imagine what we're gonna do when we're gonna get there, what we're gonna take, and to kind of put a lot of positive energy into, well, the next time we go, not if we go, but when we go, we're gonna work on these medicines, or we're gonna work on whatever your partnership, whatever you tend to do with your partner visits. Go ahead and get your list going, having people check their passports and go ahead and have a mission, a purpose for your next trip. Let's see. Some people had asked if there was a vaccine in Cuba. There's not one yet. It's in development. Cuba has been working with a vaccine within the country. They're also working with Iran and India on testing of a vaccine. So, but they hope to vaccinate the whole entire country this coming year and start maybe later in the spring, but it's still in development. One thing that was sort of interesting about that was we learned that there were so few cases, they didn't have enough cases to study the efficacy of the vaccine. So that's how well they were doing before. Feedback is doing remarkably well. As all of you know, their resilience is beyond mine. Their humor is beyond mine. I mean, they're able to laugh and find humor in even the most difficult circumstances. They are not able to have any church services right now. There were many churches that were having church service in person with masks and spacing in the late spring, early summer, and into the fall. So we were fortunate enough to be in First Baptist Matanzas for several weeks in a row. Now, however, pretty much everybody is shut down. They don't have this kind of technology to do Zoom meetings, but they do have an application called WhatsApp, and a lot of people communicate. They put their liturgy on WhatsApp and people can look at it. Sometimes people kind of put it up at a certain time, bit by bit, so people can kind of follow along and type in prayer requests. So they manage their worship as best they can. There are a lot of people in churches, though, that don't have a phone with that capability. So a lot of people are isolated and in their home, but they talk on the phone a lot. So if you are able to put money on people's phones from your partner churches, that's a wonderful thing to help the pastors in terms of being connected to their people. And Stan will tell you more about the logistics and the possibility of sending money and of putting money on people's phones. However you communicate with your church, keep doing it. And if you can do it even a little bit more, even just short emails, sharing prayer requests, passing names back and forth, celebrating birthdays, not just the heavy prayer requests, but the wonderful prayer requests, the celebrations that you have, they mean a lot. And if you do not have WhatsApp on your phone, that's a good way to start a group between your churches. And that's one thing we want to propose, perhaps, for us to establish a group to see if people here in the US are interested in doing that. I mean, we have so many more options that may really not be necessary, but if you wanted to, you can do a group with just two churches or with just 2 or 3 people. So WhatsApp is a way that you could even, we do a lot of communicating by texting, and we can do audio clips and some video clips to folks to the churches in Cuba. And this was a really lovely idea. If you were able to share digitally recordings or audio or video, to seek out some of the musicians in your partner church to do a recording of some hymns, some choruses, some music, and have them send it, and then you can include it in your worship at whatever's appropriate time with the liturgy or the theme for your service. And then the pastor who gave me this idea, she has a partnership in another country, but she said we wanted to support them financially, and so we would ask them to submit so many songs, and we paid them for the offering of their songs, like you might pay someone you bring into the church to sing the special music sometimes. So consider that as a way to offer some support, recognizing the gifts of your sisters and brothers, or if you want to seek out, have somebody write a prayer for a special service, that you can share liturgical worship resources and stay in touch that way. I'm going to end my part with some prayer requests that we've received. We've heard from a lot of people. I'm just going to mention their names. Alicita, that many of you know, she works with Paco with the chaplaincy. She's from a church in Matanzas, and she works with Tony Santana. Javier from First Baptist Greenville. Olga.
Javier's from the partner church.
Oh, I'm sorry. Javier's he's from First Baptist Greenville's partner church. Olga from Oakhurst Partner Church, Waldemar, Orquídea. Let's see, who else has written recently? Those were the ones we got in the last day or two. But they want us to pray for all the churches, that the pastors will have the support they need to continue their ministries in this very difficult time. Pray that COVID can get under control. Pray that the scarcities of food will lessen and that people can find enough food to eat. The scarcities we saw got really worse as we were about leaving. We left on December 20th, and from our conversations since then, it's even worse. So it's really hard for people to find enough food to get through the month. Let's see, there was a family from a convention church in Havana, a young family, and the husband, who is a musician in the church, died from COVID, leaving a wife and a baby. And he was on the prayer list for the feedback. I don't have the names, but I just lift up that family, because it's on the feedback prayer list. And I think that they would pray for good health and good energy and the ability to carry on their work that they feel so called to do. Let's see if and the last phrase is, may the Spirit of God illumine all of us. So that was a prayer from Idael and Amos at the church in Ebenezer Church, where Linda Weaver Williams church and Sammy's Weaver Williams church used to be a partner. So I guess we'll stop now, and I'll make a shift with Stan and carry on.
Greetings to everyone, and I just wanted to highlight a couple of things. We also got a message from Idael, one of the co-pastors in Ebenezer. He had sent me a link to an article he wrote, sort of explaining firsthand some of the impact of the economic change with the price hike and the church pastors not being able to do that. And he says in his analysis that the pastors play such a varied role in their communities, doing counseling and doing social work and doing so many different services, that now the danger that he sees is that so many church workers who've been playing that role in the community are going to have to go back and find a state job just to put food on the table. He knows a lot of church leaders who are saying, let me get back the old university degree, because most of the pastors there had another career before church work. So I'm going to go back to that. And it's just going to be a huge loss for the community if things keep going in that direction. And, people just can't sustain life on a pastor's salary. And not only that, but in the community centers, faith-based community centers like the Kairos Center, before I left, I was talking with one of the workers who was saying, if we don't do something, I'm going to have to go back to the job I had before, or try to find a job. And the other thing is, some people are already doing it and finding that it's hard to find state jobs. So it is really a crisis. In my part, this kind of part 2 of our tag team, I wanted to just give an action guide of things that you can do, given the context that they're pretty much reliving in some ways the special period of the 90s with some major differences, but still the anxiety and the insecurity is getting to that level. But here are just some action things that I think, some of which you're already doing, you already know how to do very well, but just wanted to kind of put it out as a catalog of things we could be doing in response as people in relationship. And there's, I think, 5 points. One is, I say, speak out. And the first thing I'd say is speak and listen to, more listening than speaking, to your friends in Cuba, your people in your sister church that you've gotten to know. And use the technology that Kim was talking about, especially WhatsApp, which is their favorite application. Get on their groups, form a group. So I don't want to repeat much about what Kim said, other than to say that when we've asked people there, what are the benefits of being in relationship with Alliance churches, beyond any of the kind of gift giving or any of the other kind of things, the thing we've heard most is the relationship. And so they really do feel the impact of feeling like they're not alone, they're traveling together, and they want to support you and your crises and your trauma, just like you're supporting them. So find ways to be in regular communication. And what I've found is that living there and being immersed for now 3 years in a row, I just found that the more we talk to people, the deeper the conversations went. And I think sometimes I feel like, well, for the first 20 years of my Cuba relationship, I stayed pretty much right here because all my conversations were limited. But the more we were able to learn how to talk with them and listen to them, it's just amazing what it does to the relationship. So I want to encourage you to do that. Continue doing that. It means a lot to them, to their communities. The second part of speaking is leveraging your influence to speak out to policymakers. And on the action guide, I'm not going to go through all this, but I'd say that there's a whole wide range of policymakers that need to hear your stories. And we put a little sample letter, but all I'd say in any kind of template for telling your story is give a little bit of credibility that you've been there, or your church has hosted people, firsthand Cuban people and what the embargo is doing, and then speak out about what you're hearing from them about their hopes that it would end and what it would do to their lives of ordinary people. So make it very simple, but tell your story not only to the president and the Congress, but there are other kind of groups here that I think need to hear. And I'm really so glad that I think it was Carol from Washington was saying that, they're doing that advocacy work. I put a list down here of several in the kind of the stay informed part later on. Is there are several different advocacy groups that you can get on their email list and keep up. If there's a letter writing campaign or an email blast or something that's going out, you can get on their alerts. The third thing that more relates, I think, to that relationship building is I really encourage everyone to learn Spanish and to practice your Spanish and to keep working on it and improve it. I'm got a long way to go, but I can just say the benefits in the relationship of overcoming some of our, it's a way of overcoming some of our privilege, is to learn and speak in the language of our friends. And it means a lot to them. Just the trying, I think just the effort, I think they really bless that. The second action, and this is more, I think, of action that we can do in our theological kinds of actions, I talk about change the story. And this is to put a narrative. What I keep hearing from people in our Cuban network is that the narrative of what our relationships are like are so important. And we've got kind of a storied history of having the wrong narratives in a lot of different mission work. But I say here, connect the dots between all the great and essential work that's being done on dismantling racism, but don't stop at dismantling racism, and don't stop at working to improve the injustices or confront the injustices on our domestic life, but connect the dots between dismantling racism and white privilege and dismantling American exceptionalism. I think there's so much about our history as two countries and two cultures that we need to come to terms with. What I think has really intensified over the last month. For me, it kind of really spiked on the night of the Capitol riot when we heard so many speeches from the Senate floor about how great America is, and just the exceptionalism language, and it's continued on. So just confronting that within ourselves and what that could do to our partnership to change the narrative. Part of that, I think, theologically, is to do some serious work in Bible study to get a new hermeneutic where we could read the lens of Scripture, not always assuming that we are the people of God, but sometimes read it from the context of being a superpower, and that, like it or not, we're complicit in what the superpower does to other countries. And so instead of reading it assuming we're always the good guys, what does the story say if we're Pharaoh, or if we're Goliath, or if we're Nebuchadnezzar, or if we're Caesar? If we're in that space, if we're located there, what do we need to do to dismantle those privileges to relate to others? I think we could develop new narratives of relationship to get beyond the mission language and also even the partnership language. I've been thinking about how many lawyer shows I've watched over the years, and to know that in a big law firm, to be a partner, you really have to, jump through a lot of hoops, and you have to do a lot of things to achieve partnership status. And I think sometimes we do that a little bit too simply, but in the unequal dynamics between superpower and Cuba, that we just can assume we can be partners. And so I'd like to just unpack some of that and think about what our relationship would be like with models more of restorative justice and reparations and truth and reconciliation, and weave some of that theological work into our liturgies, where we might even replace some of the liturgical language of missions, of offerings and donations, and think about a different way of talking about how we redistribute concentrated wealth. The third point was to stay informed. And here's where, if you click on the link of this page, you'll see various working groups, various advocacy groups that are really good at keeping people informed on actions, current actions. A suggested reading from a short thing like the McGovern letter to President Biden, and the new thing from the United States and Cuba, New Policy of Engagement, I think from the Cuba Working Group, and then some books that would be helpful in keeping us grounded in the context and the history. Let me stop before doing my fifth thing, because I'd forgotten one of the things back on speaking Spanish. We were going to do a bit of music. So I want to go back and talk about that in terms of learning Spanish, I have this kind of threefold, I think, approach of finding that Bible Gateway audio version in Spanish, and memorize a bunch of your favorite passages. Watch Spanish language TV and movies. The novellas are great. And then listen to music, Silvio Rodriguez, and then all of the kind of faith songs that the feedback churches are doing. We're going to make, the Kairos Center is going to be making those available with sheet music over this year. So we're going to do a song now just to kind of break the meeting up a little bit. And it's one of the most popular worship songs, Que no caiga la fe, que no caiga la esperanza, that faith and hope won't fail us.
So I
you
hope
can sing
y'all
along.
can hear all right, and yeah, sing along.
Let me see if I can read the lyrics. Que no caiga la fe, que no caiga la esperanza. Que no caiga la fe, que no caiga la esperanza. Que no caiga la fe, hermano, que no caiga la fe. Que no caiga la fe, que no caiga la esperanza. Si se cae la esperanza de tu pecho, se acaba el deseo de luchar. No te olvides del rostro de tu pecho. Los días no se encuentran. Que no caiga la fe, que no caiga la esperanza. Que no caiga la fe, que no caiga la esperanza. Que no caiga la fe, que no caiga la esperanza. Que el tiempo se presente muy difícil. Se aumente entre nosotros la tensión. Que no caiga la esperanza, hermana mía. Y se apaga la luz del rey. Que no caiga la fe, que no caiga la esperanza. Que no caiga la fe, que no caiga la esperanza. Que no caiga la fe, que no caiga la esperanza. Que no caiga la fe, que no caiga la
I have a request for the okay.
Okay, we back? Yeah, we're back on the screen. The last thing I was going to say, the last kind of action plan, I think, is to practice a spirituality of solidarity. Find some way in your experience of the spirituality of your life that you find a way to make connections and be in solidarity with the Cuban people. Kim and I are doing our best in this kind of culture shock of coming back from a scarcity environment to a surplus environment. We're doing just simple things like trying to limit our food budget of everything that we would buy on food to $30 a week, which is the salary of a Cuban school teacher. And it's not going to change the world, but it's going to keep reminding us to kind of be in touch with people who are limited and uncertain about their food. Those choices are that you're forced to make can serve as prayer reminders. And then a spirituality that is tied to our home economics is to redistribute resources and find ways to channel the surplus resource that we find ourselves with into the hands of the churches of Cuba for all the kind of things that we've invested in the past in the micro enterprise projects and salary supports now as pastors are trying to figure out how to stay in their role as pastor. And there is one, with all the challenges that we found in the past year with the tightening of the embargo, challenging ways to get money to Cuba until the travel gets back and people can personally carry it just like before. We have found one possible way through an online site called acuba.com, acuba.com. And we, what?
Thanks to Judy for finding that site, Judy Mays.
Judy Mays is the one who sent the promotion of that so that we've started. And we've done a few trial, we've sent some trial money there to just make sure that it works. We're right about the time when we should find out if they get it on in their accounts or not. And if we do find that it's successful, we'll certainly pass out the information details of the things you have to do to use that route. The other thing I'd say in terms of bigger picture redistributing of resources is just think about all the ways when we're connected to grant money, that grant money can have some piece of it that has to do with Cuba work. I'm thinking about the current Lilly Endowment's Thriving Congregations project. How cool would it be to have Cuba churches involved in that to talk about how they've dealt with racism and white privilege in their context and what we could learn from them. So if there are other kind of big pocket money that could help in the the redistribution. That would be great. And the last thing in terms of just the spirituality is be in prayer. We've learned so much from our Cuban friends that before doing any action or accompanying any action or while you're doing any action, to do it in the spirit of prayer and realize that it's not just our strength, or it's not our strength at all, that we're relying on a force bigger than us and a story bigger than ours to be a part of. See if I missed anything. Yeah, I think we wanted to hear from you, and just Kim has a prayer concern, and then we're going to open it up to see what comments and questions you might have.
I have one prayer request that I didn't mention, and that Alicita, the chaplain and psychologist at the Kairos Center, she has a daughter named Isis who's 9, and she's been asking for a trip to see her cousin who lives in the United States. And so Alicita is trying to explain why she can't go right now. So she kind of goes through the list that are the prayer requests from feedback pastors. So I just wanted to share that it's something that kids are affected by, just in many in big and small ways. So remember Alicita and Isis. And also there's I bet all of you who have been to Cuba have somewhere in a pocket or a drawer or your passport belt an old coin, a piece of change from Cuba. And that change is not going to be, you're not going to be able to spend it when you go back. So I was thinking, what are we going to do with that? And so Nancy Bradley and I were talking about this, and she helped me think about what we could do. And so we're thinking about just encouraging people to take that piece of change and say, Cuban change for change in Cuba, or make your own little thing, but a Cuban change for change. I know that phrase gets used a lot, but because we can't use this change to buy stuff, we can use this stuff we can use our change to pray for the advocacy work we're doing, to pray for our partners, to pray for good health, to pray for resources. So put it on a card on your fridge, put it on your table, put it where you're going to see it, or carry it around in your pocket. But get one of your old coins and make it more valuable instead of less valuable. And then I wanted to end with 2 things that I got from Orestes, the pastor at First Baptist Church, who all the people from Pull love and know so well. This is a joke he told me. He said one day, I feel about as useless as a 2020 calendar. And so I realized at that point I hadn't looked at my calendar for months, and it's like I opened it up. It's like, yeah, what's the point of this? And then one day we were looking over there. We would try to do some shopping for fruits and vegetables, and there was one day that the onions were hanging down. They hang on this braided rope, and there was only one onion left. And Orestes says, "This is the holy onion, and we're not going to use this onion until we find more. So we're going to pray that this holy onion will guide us to find more." And so when you're cooking with onions or garlic or any kind of seasoning, think about the holy onion, and that many Cubans are looking for their seasoning, their onions and garlic and peppers for their beans. So that's where I'll stop now. And I think you all were going to open it up or have questions. Or
Let me say just one quick other advertisement is that the Cubans, as always, have been inventive and entrepreneurial, and they're coming up with all sorts of strategies. How are we going to survive this year, and how are we going to survive into the future? And so just be alert now that they have a little bit more of a connection, virtual connection to connect with people. You'll be getting some invitations in a membership campaign for the Kairos Center, or to buy postcards from a Cuban artist in one of the churches. They're going to find ways to try to earn their bread with dignity, in partnership with people. So don't get donation fatigue when you hear from Juan and Orestes or Joel or Lasso or somebody. Just think about, this is a way that I can continue to be supporting them so that they can survive in their work. What questions or comments or things you want to clarify?
Yeah, and if we could do this by folks raising their hands below, you should have a section underneath where you can leave a reaction, I believe. Raise hand, yes. So it looks like Carol and Rick from DC have raised their hands first. Carol Rick.
I just wanted to follow up on some of what he said from our working group meeting. There were two people, Joel Ortega and Renario from the Cuban Council of Churches, and they shared how desperate the situation. They got teary a bit talking about it, the lack of food. And so the big push at that meeting was to contact the Biden administration and tell them, do not go slow, go fast on reversing all these horrible executive orders the last administration did. And I don't have the contact tonight, but I'll get that to you all. So just emphasize over and over, your advocacy makes a difference. It really helps. And so do it quickly. That's what you want to tell them is we have these relationships and please get rid of these horrible executive orders, do it quickly, and then push for the other changes of ending the embargo. But first get rid of those bad executive orders that limited travel and limited remittances. And then the other thing they wanted us to push on was to restore the embassy staff so that the people can get visas and can do that without having to travel to other countries. And then they said, especially to end the sanctions against food and medicine. So I just wanted to share that encouragement. And then if you not only should push the administration to do that, but ask your representatives, your congressmen and women and your senators, could they also contact the administration and encourage them to do that? They're going to focus on foreign policy in February. That starts tomorrow. So we need to do this right away. Thank you.
That's good.
Thank you. If you could also put your question in the chat too, that would be helpful too. I didn't make that note a few minutes ago, but
yes, and
any other questions?
There's already a question in the chat.
Oh.
It's from James and Ruth Garrison. Stand on if you and Kim see it. Is the UN able to get food assistance in? Do you know? Or are there any other outside sources getting food assistance in?
I don't know the exact answer as to whether or not the UN could get food in, but I'll have to say that Cuba is so different from other countries where there's abject poverty and people are literally starving. Here it's more really intense food insecurity. And so the history of what I've understood is that the UN hasn't been doing that kind of thing for Cuba because Cuba does not want to be seen as a third world country with people starving. And so,
right.
Again, I don't know the full answer to that, but I don't see the UN playing that particular role. Carol might know.
Carol, do you know about that?
We don't know. We
Okay.
think Stan's correct.
Okay.
I will say if I'm
You're still.
okay. In terms of ending the embargo, one of the big pushes, I'd say the advocacy that's being done, probably more so than those of us in the church community, is the agriculture community. Every state Department of Agriculture wants to end the embargo so that they can do some kind of, quote, partnership work, hopefully good, probably not all good, but work in Cuba. And there's just to put a kind of a plug in, there's a group in Des Moines that's partners with a feedback church in Havana, and they're wanting to do a huge conference in October around food, around Cuba and food, to get all the ag people in and talk to how we could help support sustainable agriculture and not just big agriculture. A lot of plans, but just thinking about when you're talking to people to advocate for, some of your best friends in that effort will be your ag people.
Carol and Rick have added that the Cuban Council of Churches. Did you want to say that, Carol?
No, you go ahead.
So for the past 7 weeks, they have worship services on TV. The Catholic folks have had Mass on TV for a while, so they're excited to do this as well. And then Linda from Baptist Church Covenant asks, any ballpark projection about when travel may be possible?
Travel is possible now. I think for us, people can go to Cuba. It's just not practical to go with the COVID the way it is. So there are airlines, JetBlue and Delta. No, JetBlue and American. I'm not sure about Delta. JetBlue and America have flights, and it's just really hard to deal with the quarantine and not being able to travel outside of Havana.
Because there are so limited staff with the Council of Churches and the Office of Religious Affairs, they are not granting any religious visas at present. They plan to do that sometime, but nobody knows really when. But one good thing, I think this is for Poland and maybe another church that had visas for trips that were supposed to happen last year, that your visas will be honored. You won't have to buy them again for the people that signed up. So that's a good piece of news that they want to do that. They've never done that before, but I guess this is a situation we've never lived through before. But they're going to honor your visas, and so I think they have full confidence they want to start the religious visas. They want to have church groups come. It's just right now it's too complicated with COVID.
Let me say that it is possible, and we talked with some of the pastors there about this idea of not in a big group, but maybe just 2 people from a church going down to the community on one of the other visas that are available, humanitarian help or help for the Cuban people, or one of those kind of generic visas that are sold at the airport even. But plan on a trip and talk to your partner church folks about when this might be feasible after the COVID is a little bit under control. That plan before the religious visas are available. Plan to go down, just a small group of 2, stay in a bed and breakfast, eat in the restaurants. You can't really rely on the church to host you without a religious visa. But go down there and just meet the people in their communities and take things that are needed. So I think you could go ahead and, like Kim was talking about earlier, plan a trip in conjunction with your pastor, sister church pastor.
Okay, so there's a question. Laura Stout isn't able to react and asked Ann Garner to ask suggestions for alternate language to partnership language, especially in print when speaking to the whole congregation, opposed to in small groups with people who have experienced Cuba.
Could she say more about that?
Maybe.
Okay.
She's just texting me on the side because her computer's acting up and she's not able to.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to get a better understanding of the idea.
I didn't get the idea.
Well, I gathered, Stan, that it was in response to you saying the partnership language. And so what else should we, how should we refer to these relationships if we ditch the partnership language? I mean, we've used sister church sometimes in the past. I mean, your best wisdom about how to proceed with that.
I don't have an answer to that other than that would be a really great thing to think and pray about and brainstorm other language that doesn't assume things that I think the partnership assumes too easily. So, I mean, certainly partnership is better than a lot of other, and I know all the reasons why we want to use partnership, but part of what I'm trying to do is really focus on dismantling the privileges and recognizing more the inequalities of the relationship and how much work I have to do to uncloak all of that and enter into more of an honest relationship with my friends. And thankfully, we've gotten to know people well enough that, and part of it's language, but a lot of it is just spending time with them, that they're being more honest. Some of them are being honest, and it's hard to hear sometimes. But even I'm thinking about one example when we got our visa, or our temporary residence card denied for this year, and we had to come back. We had been praying about that and hoping that it would be good news, and we're so devastated emotionally. And we met with the directiva of the feedback, and they were really great to us, sharing that grief with us. And then in the middle, one of our good friends just kind of made a comment, said, this is the first time that I've experienced in all my years of working that that a U.S. person has been denied their visa application. And I'm just thinking about the hundreds and thousands of Cuban mothers who get that, who've gotten that over the years and not been able to travel to go see their family, to go see a granddaughter, to go see a grandmother, and been treated poorly. She goes, this is one time, but I'm thinking about, and it just so hit me that I sort of was coming into that whole process with that U.S. privilege of, I should be free to travel and stay wherever I want to. I should be able to, I'm doing good work. Why don't they want to have me here? Blah, blah, blah. And so just her naming that for me was like, oh, I'm feeling a lot of privilege here. And that's why I think the coupling the work of dismantling white privilege with, for me, it's sort of more of a top coat for me anyhow, of the American exceptionalism that covers a lot of the other isms, and to figure out ways we can find the language and find the ways to walk alongside our Cuban family that is in a different place.
Thank you. Sorry, my computer had frozen earlier and I couldn't comment or chat or raise my hand or anything. So thank you, Anne, for asking, and Stan for answering.
I have I remember something that the Pullen in the First Baptist Church Matanzas group said one time. I don't remember which trip it was after, but I think it was the trip when Orestes and the group went from Matanzas to Raleigh, and they offered the gift of the cross that they'd taken off the wall. And there was this collective intake of emotion and tears and love and friendship that went to a depth that had never happened before. And if I'm remembering right, it was at that moment that you all realized you were just one congregation. You just happened to meet in two different places. So maybe that's an image we can think about, is that we're not two churches, we're one church. We just meet in two different places. And so to live, you know, in all that we do in our worship and our small groups, we're just one church. So anyway, just a good memory for me and an idea.
May I chip in?
Mm-hmm.
Laura, I think that's an excellent follow-up question. And one word occurs to me that I heard constantly in Cuba in my travels there. It is the word compañerismo, which is translated companionship. That is a word that seems to resonate with Latin Americans generally. I know in diplomacy it's used a lot. I think it would be, it's one possibility for getting at what Stan was talking about earlier. And I appreciate, Stan, very much. You're bringing that whole question of language into the equation tonight.
And that's a great idea. It's a good word. They use it a lot.
I've wondered if we might ask Lisette to share a moment about what she's hearing from her parents.
Hey, hello, everybody.
Hi, Lisette.
Hey, hola. I miss you guys. Well, we are through WhatsApp, pretty much hearing every day from them. I feel very insecure now that Stan and Kim are not there, because I feel like part of us was there and they, you know, it's like I have my family there too. They weren't alone. But in regular basis, I'm aware of how the basic needs are a difficulty for everybody, and I feel so fortunate that and Judy and I, you know, that we are able to send money there when we were able to send money. And lately, it hasn't been money, it has been like somebody is selling fish. Somebody has fish in Matanzas. And if we pay the family here, the relative here, in dollars, the person in Cuba delivered the fish to our parents, or a piece of meat, and to my parents, to my aunt in another house, to a household in Havana. So we have been trying to feed different households over there, and it's that kind of a change. We deposit the money here, they deliver the product, and eventually the relative here, when they're able to travel, they're gonna bring that money to their family in Cuba. So it was so good to know that. My dad was so happy. I have fish. Let's invite Kim and King on a stand, and they would report. You know, we shared the fish with them, and and they poured. But so they count on us for every single things. The when something breaks, so I wonder how people who don't have relatives here, they survive. I'm really in awe. I'm very concerned about that. So thank you for you being an extended family for a lot of people in Cuba, and that brings a lot of comfort to me and to all of them. Thank you, Stan and Kim, for being such a good family to everybody, and they love you so much, and I know it must be very hard for you to all of a sudden move here, how to live here, and but anyway, I'm feel very grateful for you, Stan and Kim, and for the Alliance family for always being a bridge with our people in Cuba. So thank you.
Thank you, Lisette. It's one of the great blessings of our life to be part of your family and to count Paco and Lila as our Cuban parents. So yeah, that's where our heart is. And let me give a shout out to Paco's work with the prison chaplaincy that now is extended into hospital chaplaincy work as well, that they just produced a documentary film that they're trying to get through the channels to be shown on Cuban TV. I think maybe a 30 or 35-minute film on the prison chaplaincy program. And we're working now on figuring out some way to get it uploaded here with subtitles and everything. So thanks to Oakhurst and to the Circle of Mercy for helping fund that project, which is another example of ways that we can invest in really good ministries there.
What time it is? Does anyone else have a question that you want to entertain? Lisette kind of started us on a prayer when she offered words of gratitude. So I'm wondering if others might have a prayer you might want to verbalize. It could be a petition, words of gratitude about what you're, I'm thinking about using that language now, what your companions in the journey from Cuba have taught you. Is there something you'd like to verbalize, a prayer of gratitude or a prayer of intercession as a way of helping us close out our time tonight? Does anyone want to verbalize any of that?
I'd like to start by saying how grateful we are to be connected with all of you, and the tremendous culture shock and spiritual shock of moving back for a little while here has been alleviated so much by being able to connect and stay connected with people who understand. We don't have to start from scratch. We can talk to people who understand. And so grateful for the Alliance and for its long commitment to trying to figure out how to be in companionship.
Mm-hmm. as I look at the faces here and what you all represent, to me, it's a number of years of long relationships, and it's like Cuba has brought us together. There was one point in time at one of our annual gatherings where I even wondered aloud, and if you were there, you may recall this, if we'd even exist if it wasn't for our relationship to the Fraternity of Baptist Churches in Cuba. That was the call to be in that relationship that kept a fire of the Alliance going at a time when the Alliance was having conversations with CBF about merging. And so I am very grateful. This relationship has been some of the glue of the Alliance of Baptists. And so as I made the list of all the churches that were represented in this group, I give thanks for all of you for your commitment to our friends and companions in Cuba. And I'm grateful for this glue, and this glue is really love. When I was, I guess it's been February of 2019 was when I was at the last feedback meeting, and I visited Manolo's church, and one of the women of his church came to me and said, it's all the love and prayers of the Alliance that's made the difference. And what was happening then, which was we were traveling from all over, all the airports were open, travel was going back and forth. I mean, the embassy was open, that had been restored. I mean, it was just a time of just great celebration. And so I want to echo what Stan and Kim have said about how I learned from them, their belief that our prayers and our love made a difference in that, and that it's important for us to continue those and to believe that indeed the restoration and even a better relationship than we've had in 60 some years is possible in these new days ahead for us. Does anyone else have a word you want to say? And Stan and Kim, do you have any way you want to close out?
I'll let Kim say the final word, but I'd like to just say thank you, Paula, for being such a constant companion. You and Stan both have been such loyal companions to Cuba over the years, and thank you for that. And I'd like to invite everybody else that's in the meeting tonight to stay in touch with us. And if there's any way that we can help facilitate what your church is doing, we'd love to connect with you and find out what we can do. So keep us in your loop as well as we can continue working together as the Alliance.
I think we've finally done enough Zoom meetings to know at least how to click on the Zoom icon to start a meeting. And usually we can leave the meeting like we're supposed to, but we're happy to do, just a Zoom meeting with one particular church and talk more in depth about our recent contacts with the folks there. And we love talking about that part of it. So I think it helps our hearts feeling more connected. But I'll just say muchas gracias and Dios les bendiga. Many thanks and God bless all of you and with all of your companions. And thank you for being our companions and supporting us so generously. And we look forward to continuing being companions.
Okay, so for those who've missed tonight, you can tell them that the recording will be shared in the newsletter, the Alliance newsletter that's going out on Wednesday. And there will be a link in the newsletter to the documents that Stan and Kim prepared for us. And you can practice singing. Maybe we should put up an audio file of that song so we can really practice singing it. So that would be the next challenge. So thank you, everyone. If you want to turn your mics on and speak to everybody, feel free to.
Yeah, we'll leave it open here. Thanks, everyone. And good. Thanks, Stan and Kim.
Great to see everybody.
Care.
Thank you.
Yay!
Que no caiga la fe.
Gracias.
Kim, Kim,
Yes?
are you all gone?
No, we're here. Stan and I are still here.
This is Charles Myers in Hendersonville.
Oh, hey.
Yeah, the Wake Forest magazine went out. I got it yesterday. Are there connections with any of the universities that might be helpful?
There have been some connections with some universities. What did you say?
No, yeah, there have been partnerships, but they've been really tightened. The restrictions for how to do a university partnership to use that visa is really, really restrictive right now. And for many, many reasons, it's limited. Wake Forest has a couple of programs that has stayed connected through the arts program. Has one that a woman goes to Matanzas quite frequently around an art thing, and I forget what the other one is, but many universities have had partnerships in Cuba over the years, and it's really dwindled in recent years.
But thanks for that reminder. That's something we can explore and check into.
Okay.
And Stan, are you okay? You've lost weight. I hope you can spend more than $30 a week on food here.
Thank you. No, I'm in good shape. I went down 3 notches on my belt buckle over the past 6 months, but found out if you basically eat rice and beans and you don't overeat and you walk a few miles every day, you're probably going to lose weight. So it's the Cuban diet and exercise plan.
Well, there you go. You're teaching a lot of us, because a lot of us are gaining weight with this COVID business.
Yeah. Oh, goodness.
Maybe that could be an advertisement.
Go ahead.
Go with church, lose weight in Cuba. You know. Guarantee. 4 weeks guarantee. You give the money back. Okay.
Well, since Charles has been talking about Wake Forest, I'm going to sympathize with the two of you in culture shock. It is absolutely no fun. A reverse culture shock.
Reverse culture shock. Sure.
Yeah.
Been there.
Oh, my experience, I'm talking too much. When I got back, I said, why are the people are so pale? They look so sick.
He came back from Africa.
That was Charles.
Okay.
Did you want to say something? Oh.
I'll just say one last word about how important advocacy is. You know, we're several days into the Biden administration with lots of executive orders each day and not much news about Cuba, although they're going to be reviewing it. But I think it just shows the power of the advocacy on the other side. If there wasn't a huge advocacy group trying to keep the embargo in place, and if that didn't mean something in presidential politics, Biden would have done this on day one. And so he has to hear from you and from us just to sort of balance out what I know he's hearing from constituents in Miami.
And what they told us last week was it is so important to hear from people of faith on this issue.
Well, it's been a wonderful evening. Stan and Kim, thank you for leading us.
Thank you, Paul and Jason, for putting it together.
They're eager to keep having these conversations, so don't hesitate to take them up on their offer to talk with you. Seriously, they mean it. They really mean it.
Yay.
So, all right.
Adios.
All right. Good night, everyone.
To
everyone. Good night.
Gracias.
Okay. Okay. Good night.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, that's us. There we
Paula.
go. I thought that went really well.
Goodbye, Paula. I wanted to say
Bye,
that.
Carol. I'm glad to see you.
It's good to
I
see
thought
you.
that went really well. Thanks so much.
Are we unmuted?
Bye. Good night, Ann.
That was a great group, Paula and Jason. You feel,
I
you
think
feel
Paul's
good about
gone
it.
now for some reason, but it was really good. It was a great group. I think I counted up to 50 at one point, so it was really good.
Wow.
That's more than I thought. I mean, I thought it was gonna be like 25, 30, but yeah, I thought it was really good. So thank y'all so much. Really appreciate it.
Well, you too, you make it, you all do the legwork to make so much of the wonderful blessings possible. And I know that you've been blessed when you've been there, and I know you're blessed by your continued contact, but I can't emphasize enough that the importance of your emails and both of you, because when we were there and we would talk to Zaida or Kidia or anybody, they would say, "Oh yeah, well, we got an email from someone, from either one of you." And
Yeah.
I know there were some problems with Orchidea's email and but for a while, but I mean, just short emails, sometimes those are the best, just to say we're praying,
Right.
or here's a
Check-in.
prayer request we have, pray for us as we do our advocacy, pray for the people we're going to talk to, whatever. But I think your long history, relationship and companionship, friendship is, it really helps them not feel isolated and accompanied. So just carry on, and we'll keep, we'll keep doing the same.
Well, let's keep carrying on. I think this was good, and so let's just keep this Cuba community, really connected. And I think this is great. So.
Yeah, I got almost choked up when we went through that roll call. I was like, I don't know if I can talk or not. I was just so.
Yeah, it's humbling.
I know.
Yeah, any feedback you want to give us about how the thing went or how it could flow better? We're always open to figuring out how to tell a story.
And Stephanie did tell me that I don't know if I forwarded this to you or not, that there's an opportunity for connections in May for an article. So I've asked her for a deadline and for a word limit. Not May, March. I'm sorry, May is a ways out. But March, in the March connection.
Okay, yeah, just send that
she
on.
says there's an opening. So just be thinking about that. I think that would be a great word on anti-racism and efforts in feedback or in Cuba. So and your perspective as an American. So yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Well, okay.
No, I guess I want to make sure that there wasn't anything else I was supposed to do, because I remember we were working on several things at once back when we Zoomed. We were talking some about that meeting with the church in England. And then we were talking about the prayer and this meeting. Was there anything else that we were supposed to do for you all that we haven't done yet to turn in anything?
Let me follow up with with Paula, just to see. But I think that was everything we talked about right now, other than some of those advocacy conversations we were beginning, or those plans we were beginning. So, but I think this kind of kicked it off. So this was the most important thing.
So the next thing would be this newsletter in March, in terms of a document.
Would be an article, yeah. Would be an article in the newsletter, yeah.
Okay.
Good deal.
Well, thanks so much for keeping things moving and giving us good deadlines so we can be prepared and ahead of time. And bless you and your family and everything.
Oh yeah, well, I need deadlines to exist. Like I need that push. So they help me a lot. So I understand. But thank y'all so much. Dinner has begun, and I've got to get in the middle and make sure it's going well.
Buen provecho.
Buen provecho. Okay.
Adios.
Thank y'all. Bye.